We are back inside Tennessee Sunday morning. We appreciate you watching us before you go to church, because I know people tell me that's what you do. All right, we're continuing with this discussion of what to do about future city council races in what used to be the sort of the districts, if you will, in the general election. A reminder, you all probably know, Knoxville City Council races are nonpartisan. That is, what your party is doesn't matter. You have a party, but it doesn't matter in these elections. Eddie Smith.
So let's go back. So Andrew, you mentioned that the city elections are a little confusing, which I agree with. What I would have loved to have seen to kind of go to Hancen's is, leaving the districts or the regions, but then splitting them up. Because right now what happens is you only have one district that runs by itself every 4 years, but then all three at-larges are running with the mayor. So it's kind of a flip-flop of when they can vote citywide in the primary, when they can't. Why didn't we look at going to, splitting it up so that one at-large and the mayor is running in 2 years, and then the other two at-large, but then splitting the districts up so they're more even in those cycles, so that it's people aren't as confused when they're actually voting on their district up to then the general election.
Well, I think the first thing you want to think about is dividing up the voters, and I don't think that's a good thing to do. We've always had at-large voting to figure out who's going to serve on council. That's how we've always done it. And when you interject this division of the voters, that's when you start to have politicians picking their voters instead of the people who are voting picking their representatives.
But you wouldn't be splitting them up, because in the every 2 years you still have sit at large running citywide, so all voters still get to vote. But what happens right now is in the years that the mayor's not on the ballot, almost all except for one council district doesn't get to vote in the primary. They have to wait till the general.
In the system that I came through, which has been going for the last 50 years, you got to vote on districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 in one group in 4 years, and then 4 years later you voted for the mayor, the three at-larges, and the 5th district. So one of the changes in the First Amendment is to bring the 5th district in line with the others, and so you're going to have all the regions at once and then the at-larges at another time. So it's going to be a much simpler process.
So,
well, Hancen, let me just ask sort of a fundamental question about why should the state legislature tell Knoxville how it should run its city election? Why not let the voters of the city of Knoxville decide that?
It's a great question. So listen, I don't agree with the state legislature. I think it was a partisan move to come in.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody other than the partisan who disagrees with it didn't say that.
I think it was a partisan move by the state legislature to come in and interject themselves in what should be a locally decided issue. But I think
likely not the last.
Likely not the last, but I think likewise, this was a partisan move on city council's behalf to put into a charter amendment that will basically solidify an ideological majority on city council.
So, but Knoxville, let's be blunt about it, just like Knox County ideologically is pretty red, okay? Knoxville City ideologically seems to be pretty blue.
You mean the county is red?
The county's red, the city's blue.
Well,
right.
Agreed, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find a council member who would support putting an at-large system in Knox County, because our entire county commission would be all Republican, and the three elected Democrats now probably wouldn't have won those races. And so I think a system that is not really would not serve, and I don't think that would reflect the real diversity.
Do you think that right now our city council reflects the diversity of Knoxville?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of circumstances when you look back through history.
Talking about now.
Yeah, well, so take the 3rd district, for example. Over the last 40 years, the person who won the 3rd district primary went on to lose the citywide election, and it happens to be the more conservative part of the city. So the 3rd district has been overruled almost half of the time, and in my view, I think the voters of a district...
A whole half?
Half the time, okay. If you take out the unopposed races.
Right, that doesn't seem too egregious to me that it might float back and forth.
Well, the part that I find to be problematic is that why should I, as say a District 4 resident, have a say over who represents South Knoxville. And when you look at high turnout districts, West Knoxville is effectively going to decide who represents East Knoxville or Northwest Knoxville. And to me, I don't see how that's an equitable way to
There's
do
a lot
things.
there. Andrew, Roberto, respond.
Oh, thanks. I think Hancen did have a lot to say there, but I'm personally of a believer that really good ideas and really good candidates rise to the top. And so I like having a marketplace of ideas where everyone gets to compete. And hey, if you've got a good idea, then you can win. And that's what I think is missing from the argument that Mr. Sale's bringing to us today.
Except I would make the counterpoint that, what Hanson's bringing forward, which I think is what has kind of brought up why we have so few voters actually vote in city elections, is they don't think their vote's going to ultimately matter because they're being overruled by other areas of the city. So that's why we see such low voter
I'm not
turnout.
sure our voters give that much thought to it, Eddie.
It was one that I heard a lot. I mean, again, when I served in the legislature, they wanted us to step in. I actually tried to work to fix it so that we would, instead of the legislature coming in, the city would actually just work to move two of the at-large to the off-cycle, just so that it was not so confusing for everybody. That ultimately didn't happen, and it's where we are today.
We're going to continue this discussion in just a minute, but we got to pause to make a little bit of money. You're watching Inside Tennessee, and we'll be back.